Hello. Hi, everyone. I am here live, another Naked TikTok with the awesome Dr. Daniel Knowles. And I'm hoping I'm saying his name correctly. If not, please correct me as I go.
You said it correctly. I always say it's Knowles like Beyonce. It's easy.
Nearly just as famous as Beyonce. Almost there. Oh, yes. He is a big deal in chiropractic for those who don't know him. And I'm going to let him introduce himself because we're going to have another Naked TikTok and we'll let it flow how it goes. And if you have any questions that you would like me to ask him, please post them right below because I think I am able to read the comments as we go. I'm still testing this program out, but I'm very excited that you're here. So if you're here and you can hear as well, please thumbs up, put likes, hearts, give us the encouragement to keep going considering I got the wrong time. But yes, we are here and I'm grateful to have him. So please, would you introduce yourself? Tell us where you practice, a little bit about your story for those who are not blessed to know you like I am. So, Dr.
Absolutely. And first of all, I do want to say that I love that it's Naked TikTok because as my friend Michael Viscarelli, and someone tag him in the comments so they know I mentioned him, so he's aware of that because everybody thinks that like I talk bad about him and I don't. He's a good friend. We just do that guy thing or we knock each other. But he always says the term that TIC is best served naked, meaning that it's raw and that it's pure and that it's not dressed up with anything else. And I love that you call it that. And so as far as introducing myself, Daniel Knowles, and I want to be this raw, real, share, authentic. I like saying that chiropractic is best served authentically. So in that, I'm a second generation chiropractor. I got thrown into the chiropractic world when my mom decided to become a chiropractor when I was a teen. My health was bad as a kid, and it turned around with chiropractic care as a teen, and that inspired her to go to chiropractic school. So then from the time I was in high school, chiropractic was in my life, and then she married a chiropractor, and she married a very well-known chiropractor, Donnie Epstein. She didn't just pick, any chiropractor. She married, Donnie right when she had graduated from chiropractic school, about then, and I was now in undergrad. And the last thing I ever wanted to do was to be the same thing as my parents, right? So especially as a teen, that's kind of typical. Like I didn't want to be a chiropractor. Whatever they did, I wanted to do the opposite. But my weekends were now all of a sudden at chiropractic seminars. And when I listened to programs and listened for, my thinking was molded. And it was like, this is how I think and how I feel. And my belief system. And by the end of undergrad, I was going to chiropractic school, which was what I thought was the last thing I was going to do. However, a lot of people who know me know that I had quite the year, and we're probably going to talk about that a little bit. I had a heart transformation year, I'm calling it, nothing that I anticipated. And now looking back on it, I know for sure in my heart of hearts that my life was really saved by getting chiropractic way back then, that I had health challenges for a reason that we didn't know. And so I feel like I wouldn't have survived as well through all of this if it wasn't the chiropractic. So I have this, I have been a new warrior appreciation value sense for chiropractic that is up at a new level.
Wow. I love that. And when you were talking about being young and going to the chiropractic seminars, just brought to mind, obviously, was that one of the reasons that you created Mile High, just to create an environment where we can stay connected and reach the chiropractic word and get the word out to those people that don't even know they want it?
Yeah, and let me share why I did Mile High. And I want to say hi to Kelly Judge. I heard her speak at the Berkshires last year, and she was, if not my favorite, one of my favorite speakers at the Berkshires. And everybody should be going to the Berkshires event, Scott Garber's event. Someone tag Scott Garber so he knows I mentioned him. that's coming up in March. And also Dan Bai. Dan, one Dan to another, you also always look marvelous. So I'm glad that you're here too, Dan Bai. What happened was I was in my chiropractic bubble, really outside of the profession other than my technique world, right, which was network and going to those programs. And I had a calling, I now realize, which was I got a phone call to serve Sherman College on the Sherman College Board of Trustees. And that was out of the blue. We were at a really high volume practice, and our whole focus was our kids, our family, and our practice, and nothing in the chiropractic world whatsoever other than our technique. And we did a little bit of teaching for that, a minor amount. And this was 7 years ago. And then what happened was I got this phone call asking me to serve Sherman College on their board of trustees. And I was like, wow, that's kind of odd to get this out of the blue. And why would someone think of me for that? And I kind of, belabored it. But then I went to the first Sherman board meeting, and it was at Sherman Lyceum. And then that brought me back into political involvement with chiropractic, which I had been in the past, but I had kind of stayed out of that for a while. And when I showed up at Sherman Lyceum and then went to lots of programs for Sherman College, I remembered how much I loved those programs, and that's how I got exposed to chiropractic. And also, I had seen the state the Sherman College was in at the time, and it kind of really awakened a giant, and it woke me up holy crap, our profession is not where it needs to be. And I was kind of oblivious to all that. So it really stirred in me. And after a few years, I went to Sherman Lyceum a couple of years and New Beginnings. I remembered how much I liked those experiences and how much they molded me, and how much Colorado and this region lacked that. And I kept keeping me up at night that I had to do this. So I just decided to give it a shot and see what would happen. So, and the rest is history, so to speak.
Well, that's awesome. And I'm glad you mentioned Katie, because I love and appreciate her. She's been a chiro missionary for years, and I also interviewed her, and she's just one of my soul sisters. So I love her and the whole family, her brother, her mother, everybody. They are just terrific speakers. So if you need speakers, they're so passionate, come from a great place. And hi to everybody. Dan, yes, you also look good too. Yes. I definitely agree. And thank you for sharing about Mile High, because some people, they know about the program. They just don't know how it got started. And it always is with something passionate or something hard or something amazing. Always those pivots just drive us to do great things that others are going to be benefited from. And you mentioned Sherman, obviously, and Lyceum. I love that. Okay, so now to get to what I really wanted, I think the reason I reached out to you to get TIC TALK was because you have taught us so much with your journey this year. And for that, I am very grateful. And I'm sure there's plenty of people listening to this that feel the same way as I do. Because I only ask about what I'm thinking, what I would like to know. And also, I know if I want to know, other people want to know as well. So in this journey that you have had, this was such it could be to anybody watching, that was just very scary, very traumatic, very, it was humbling. It was so many things. But not only do you look great, you have taught us so much in the last 6 months. That is, it's just, can we just really get naked and talk about what this whole experience has taught you and what it has changed in the life of you and your beautiful family?
Yeah. And, it's really interesting because it's a whole different world. And even just you saying that how much I've taught you or taught people, everywhere I'm going, people are looking at me different, seeing me different, talking to me different, saying, I get messages and cards and saying that I'm inspiring them. People coming up to me crying that I'm inspiring them. This is a box of all the cards and gifts that I received. It was an overwhelming experience, and I think I'm just barely dealing with it, taking it all in and all the emotion of it. And it's interesting to hear, inspiring, because, you know, or people have said, oh, you just so authentically and open shared what happened. And I'll talk about it here. However, to me, Rochelle and I just, chiropractic is not just the adjustment, it's principles and life principles and values that we embrace and how we choose to live. So I was just living the principles that I embody, you know, through this. And I wasn't trying to, it's just, this is how we live. I'm not going to go through this defeated. I'm not going to go through this and face it like I'm powerless. I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to, you know, give my power away to allopathic mindset. Hey, Andy Hawkins joined us. Shout out, Andy Hawkins. Congratulations on graduation. If you're still with us, put on the date for Mile High because people need to know that. Put that in the comments. So, and Andy Hawkins has helped us. He's flown out and helped us for so many events and spoke at Mile High. He won our contest last year. And this happened 2 months or 6 weeks or 8 weeks before Mile High. And we thought, what are we going to do? We're going to have to cancel everything. Like, how are we going to handle this? So basically what happened was this. I practiced on a Tuesday. Wednesday was going to be, Thursday. I practiced on a Tuesday. Oh yeah, Thursday was going to be 4th of July. And we were going to go to a fireworks game. And Wednesday was the day I practiced. I did my full office that morning. I had woken up. I always exercise first thing in the morning pretty intensely. I had done a total of 100 push-ups and 100 pull-ups that day, and in between sprint runs in intervals. I practiced for the day. I usually did my usual workload. I felt I went home and I had dinner, and I felt nauseous. I had felt a little bit queasy and nauseous during the day, but mildly, nothing like to be alarmed about. And I said, well, I'm probably just hungry and I'll eat dinner and then I'll feel better. And after I ate dinner, I was puking profusely, writhing on the floor. I was in the most excruciating pain I had ever experienced. And it was gone on for a few hours. And of course, being a guy, I just said, I'm okay. I'll get over this. And a couple hours of that, and my wife telling me we have to go to the ER. And I'm like, no, we're not going to the ER. But eventually I was just like, okay. What I said to her was, I remember that this thing flashed from our chiropractic education, that heart attacks, and I didn't have a heart attack, but that heart attacks can mask as abdominal pain, right? Can feel like that. And as soon as I said that, she was like, all right, we're going to the ER, but I didn't have a heart attack. They bring me in, they're doing examinations for abdominal things. And I hadn't had any symptoms that I associated with heart other than, well, I'll mention them, but in hindsight, what they were. But like, we went to the ER and they're doing abdominal exams. And this ER doc, she did something phenomenal. She really was using clinical intuition, and I'm getting chills thinking about it. She just, part of the ER, you listen to the person's heart if they're in the ER. So she listened to the heart and said, you have a murmur. And I said, well, okay. She said, no one ever told you you have a murmur? You have like a loud murmur. I said, no one's ever told me I have a murmur. Can I go home? And then she was looking ultrasound of my abdomen to see if there's anything abdominal, because that was where the pain and the distress was and the problems were. And she said, let me just do one more thing, because they were finding nothing. And she just decided to do the ultrasound on my heart. Like, let me just test this. Like, they were going to dismiss me. And she did the ultrasound on my heart and said, your heart is enlarged. And I literally, I don't want to go into medical fear, I just was like, I'm okay. I'm healthy, chiropractic. I take care of myself. And I said, well, everybody tells me I have a big heart. Like, what's the big deal? Can I go home? Like, that was my response, you know? So when I went home, I mean, I didn't go home. When after that, she said, you have an enlarged heart and you have a murmur. We're going to do an EKG. And at this point, I was like, I don't want to be here. They're digging, like there's nothing with my heart. I have abdominal pain. It's probably just something weird that and why are they looking at my heart and doing the EKG? And I have a certain lack of trust in medical profession. So they did the EKG and they came back and said I was in stage 4 heart failure based on the EKG. And I thought, you're crazy. I'm going home. They're like, no, we really advise you to be admitted and stay here overnight until the cardiologist can be here in the morning so you can be observed. And I said, I literally was like, no, tomorrow's the 4th of July. I'm not spending it in the ER. I have tickets to the fireworks game with my kids. This is not happening. I can be here Friday and see the cardiologist. Like, yeah, right, I'm in heart failure, and so of course, my wife said otherwise, and you know who wins that argument. So she made me stay. And when they did, cardiology came in the morning, and they did an echo, so it's a more advanced visualization. And I was in disbelief and wanted to leave, and up until this point. As soon as they showed me the video of this is the blood coming in and the blood going out, and then the blood's coming back in, like it was regurgitating into my heart, I was like, oh, as soon as I saw it visually, I was like, oh, okay, that's not good, and then I realized I had to, I was like, okay, what do we do? And they said, you were born with an abnormal valve. So I actually had a healthy heart. They said, your heart's stronger than the average person for sure. And you're a healthy person. Through this, you have normal blood pressure and normal pulse, even though your heart's in failure. And even though it's been with a bicuspid valve instead of a tricuspid valve, and even though you have a heart infection. So I had a heart infection, heart failure, and an abnormal valve that was breaking off, and parts of it were breaking off and floating around my body. And that's why I had the stomach pain. A part of my valve floated down into my stomach, into my hepatic arch, instead of going up. And they said, you've had 3 of these things. They did a CAT scan. One had floated down into my abdomen, one into my lung, and one had embedded in my leg. And they said, that's wild. You had 3 of these things, at least 3. He said, usually when parts break off from your heart, they go up to your brain and you get a stroke. And you've had 3 of them lodge in other areas. You need to have this replaced now. And I was like, well, of course. And he said, I just don't understand why they went down instead of up. And I said, well, of course they went down. Everything I do is above, down, inside, out. Like, so it went down, So, So that was just what I said. But then it was like, now surgery, replace the valve, in 6 weeks of antibiotics to kill the infection, IV antibiotics. And we have a big seminar of 450 people coming in 8 weeks, right? So, and a practice that we run, and, kids. And so my wife was, obviously God's not married her, but like she had to become nurse, lead chiropractor, family, and she's the real hero of this, not me. Like, she had to take care of all of us through all of that, and then work, full days in her office, and friends. The friends that step up and send things and for food, it was certainly a life transforming experience, and so it was just nothing I would have ever anticipated. But I remember being in the hospital, and they're like, your heart's so healthy. And my wife said to me, for the last 20 years, you've gotten up 6 times a week at 4 or 5 a.m. and worked out, since I've known you, right? That's what you do. And she said all that working out just paid off, right? So, and all the chiropractic care just paid off. And so the thing that was like a big chiropractic lesson takeaway, like I've said to audiences in chiropractic lay lectures for years, what you don't see and you don't feel can hurt you. Meaning like subluxations in your spine, you don't see them and you don't feel them, and they can be hurting you, not physically, but hurting your life, right? And they could be hurting you physically, right? So like, I was like, holy crap, this thing that is like, I just had that experience of like something I didn't see and didn't feel that I've had since I was born. It's been there, obstructing something. My blood flow is limiting me my whole life. And I look at research of like other people that had the same kind of thing, and their level of health throughout their life was so diminished. A lot of them had this surgery in their 20s or their 30s. I'm 48. I was 47 when I had this, right? So when this all went down, just before my birthday, right? So like this, like I was like, wow, all the things I've done gave me, helped me survive this and thrive for years beyond what is common, right? Because we know the heart's, impacted by your nervous system. We know that with heart rate variability. We know it with health. And like, I was like, wow, there's another lesson. It's not just what we often think of the negative, what you don't see and don't feel can hurt you. But there's another thing. What you don't see and don't feel can be helping you. Like, all right, so my wife's saying that like exercising 6 days a week, right? I don't necessarily see that I have, and I see Liam Schubal just joined us, and I want to absolutely mention him because there would not be a Mile High without Liam Schubal. I'll mention that, and he does have a smash hit book coming out, so that's very important to mention. Okay, and it hasn't even released. I'm saying it's a smash hit because we know it will be. So here's what happens. I don't necessarily have like abs of steel, right? But I exercise 6 days a week. I'm not necessarily fit the way I would like to be, and I'm not going to be on a magazine cover anytime soon. Okay, right? In terms of like that outcome that you're seeing from exercise, but there's other outcomes that you don't see and you don't necessarily feel that are helping you, and people dismiss that, and they do it with chiropractic care. I don't feel anything. I don't know if I should continue. I don't know. Like what you don't see and don't feel can be helping you. Chiropractic is helping you whether you see it or feel it, whether you see changes on an x-ray or a test. We want to see changes in those areas, but they're still helping you. And we want to feel changes, right? But even if you don't, it's still helping you, right? And so the same thing, like just because you're on the treadmill and you don't necessarily look like, hey, I got this experience, like all of a sudden I look like Schwarzenegger, it doesn't mean it's not helping you, right? The payoff, let's us not see the payoff later. Let's not find out what we prevented, right? Or what we delayed. But like now I have like a visceral experience of my life with that. That's just a completely different story of my life that I didn't even know was going to be the story of my life. Does that make sense?
Oh,
yeah.
For sure. I mean, there's so many aha moments in between. I just didn't want to interrupt you because it's just such a passionate story, and I love hearing about it. I had never heard the details of it, and now I'm like, wow. Because I remember seeing you in June at Karo Sushi, and then this happening just a couple weeks later, or a week.
That's a week later. It was a week after Karo Sushi.
So I was like, I saw that guy. That guy looks perfect. There's
right.
No way, because we go by that perception, but it's definitely the daily habits that have gotten you where you are. Obviously, chiropractic is a huge part of your life, and your innate intelligence is running strong, and that's why those things went down instead of up, and that's why you have been able to heal and to go through this recuperative process the way you have, and just keep going, and you look just much better even than in June. If I say that, and I know I saw you recently in New Jersey for the Warner's seminar, and you look great. So not only you keep doing your same things, and I love your post about the exercises. I was able to do so many things. I love those. I mean, I don't know. I know it's silly, but I'm telling you that Loved it. I'm like cheering from you. I'm like, go one more push-up, you know? I'm not doing it myself, but I'm cheering for you. Maybe I'm trying to project. Maybe he doesn't, and I just really, really focus the intention to be on my body. But no, you have to take the action steps necessary, and those are daily action steps. And even if you don't see the results now, you keep going. Just with everything, I teach and get naked. Just keep going every single day, and just bounce back from whatever you believe is failure, because it's not. It's a lesson, and there's nothing really bad in life. It's just an opportunity to see things from a different perspective, which I feel is what you were able to see. And yes, you're above, down, inside out. It's very strong.
Well,
strong.
Yeah, and I'll say one more thing, which is, you know, after this happened, like we were supposed to be on a flight. And you mentioned Kaira Sushi, by the way. Someone tagged Tristan because I want to make sure people know that, and Sean Dill, that I tell people to go to Kaira Sushi. Okay, so you want to go to Kaira Sushi summer camp. It's in Miami in June. Okay, so be there, right? So that's the place to be in June. So and I was at Sushi summer camp when just before this all happened, and you know. When I was supposed to be going to Australia, we had planned a 3-week trip. We were going to be out of our office like 4 or 5 days after this surgery. That was the plan, and those were booked. We had to cancel the trip clearly. But like, if this hadn't happened at that timing, this story may have been very different, because a person in heart failure probably shouldn't be in the heart infection on a flight to Australia. It's likely that if that piece hadn't broken off at that time, I would not be here. It might have been dying on a plane with my family, which would have been not how I would choose to go, right? Or the emergency might have happened in Australia, which would have been a whole different experience of being in their medical system and being away from family, if something like that, right? So, but here's the thing. When we got out, I want to thank the amount, like people said I inspired them, like the love, the cards, the gifts, the emails, the Facebook comments and messages. And we just, like the house was full of balloons and cards and food every night. Like it was amazing for the stuff that people sent. And by the way, that doesn't mean if you didn't said something, I'm keeping a list. I know who sent stuff and who didn't know. But all that stuff, like it was amazing. And I was journaling a lot during that time, which, and making sure I still got up. When I got home, I said, I'm exercising 6 days a week. I'm not exercising. Even if I can only walk outside for 5 minutes, I said, I'm right off the bat, I'm going. And Rochelle strapped on the oxygen tank to walk next to me so I could walk. I was like, I'm doing me. I'm getting up. I'm going to do my meditation, prayer, visualization. I'm going to journal, and I'm going to do what I do. The same, right? So when I got to the end of the month, the journaling, I was using this book, and it had a question. And this was the important thing, right? So it had a question that stopped me in its tracks. And it actually took me like an hour to answer because I had a question in this journal of how would you rate your month? Because it was the last day of the month. It was July. So it was 1 to 10 scale. How would you rate your month? Okay. So, and I sat there like, well, how am I going to rate July? Like this kind of sucked. I had to have heart surgery. I didn't go to Australia with my family for this mega vacation. I never thought I'd have surgery. I'm on IV antibiotics. I can't sleep at night. I can't breathe on my own without an oxygen tank. Like, this is the last thing I thought would happen to me, someone who takes care of themselves, at the age of 47. And it pretty much was awful. And I sat there and I thought of all the love that all you guys sent, all the cards, all the photos, all the posts, all the well wishes, and all the gratitude that I was like living in and experiencing, and the fact that I was alive as compared to the alternative, because that isn't so attractive at this point, right? And I said, wow, this was actually the best month of my life. And I marked it as a 10 plus in that book, because I wouldn't trade it. What would the alternative be? And I gained so much. And that's what the thing, hey, Barry Hobbs, join us. That's the thing, is so often we push away the experiences that are testing us. And, people say your test will be your testimonial. That's an old adage. But like, it really was like the amount of gratitude for this experience and insights that it gave me, and just, giving me actually life. Right. So that's something to be, superbly grateful. It's not something to be a victim of. Right. And so, and that's like just how we live if we have a chiropractic mindset, if we have chiropractic goggles on, as I say. If you see the world through chiropractic goggles, that's how you would see this, right? You'd see that there's an organization that's happening within you and within your life, and there's a reason this plays out this way. And then, talk about Donnie Epstein. I teach network, right? Donnie Epstein's my dad. He's taking care of me daily, him or my wife, and then he's taking care of me. He's why huge that I survived this, because of all the care that he's given me throughout my life. Those adjustments adding up in terms of value. I probably wouldn't have survived this if it wasn't for the care from him through this time, or it would have been a different emergency back, because my innate wouldn't have been as responsive, right? Through subluxated spine. So, but then he was having heart challenges, and I saw he had a history of heart challenges. He had blood pressure concerns, and I made the call to the cardiology department and said, I made an appointment for him, right? And I said, you have to go and get this checked out. It's not responsible. Find out why this is going on. And, they found out that they grounded him. No more flights. I'll just say that. He couldn't fly anywhere. So like, also that this kept me alive. Chiropractic care kept me alive enough to take care of him when he would have been. He said he didn't think he would have lived through this year if he hadn't gone. That's all intertwined together, right? That you can see that the universe is sometimes, often, working for you. We don't necessarily pay attention to that things are transpiring and rolling out for you, right? And either you can look at those signs and ignore them, right? Or you can realize that that's all happening. And the way that's intertwined, it's all divinely perfect.
I love that. Yes, the universe is always conspiring to make our vision come true and to make the biggest impact. Sometimes we don't want to listen to it because it's done with us, but hey, it is there. I know I had so many questions to ask you. We are not going to get to them, but I'm just going to throw some out there so you can answer whichever you want. How about that? I know I interview a lot of chiropractors, and I've been doing mission trips for 10 years and so on, and I feel like in my opinion, that there needs to be even more unity in chiropractic. And chiropractic is so simple and so beautiful that could be like streamlined in like one sentence, one message, ADIO for that matter, right? If we were to choose one. And I feel like I wish more chiropractors had your certainty, because of your certainty, you've been able to go through this journey even better, right? Because of what you know, what you live, and what you breathe, and what you believe. And I always ask the chiropractors I interview, what do you think is going to help to increase certainty in chiropractic? And where do you see chiropractic going in 10 years? So that is my one question. And I also want to ask you, just so you can put it out there, if there's any regrets that you have in life, and any lasting life lessons or things that you want to leave us with, like a book we must read besides Liam Schubel's, and thank you for watching. I can't wait to interview you so you can promote that awesome book for all of us. But yes, so certainty in chiropractic, the vision for chiropractic 10 years from now, what is it that we can all chiropractors, chiropractic students, do in order to get more on the same page and push forward? And yes, if you want to talk about any regrets or any other life lessons you want to give us.
All right, so the first thing I'm going to say is the most important book for you to read is Liam Schubel's. All right, so I'll say that first. His first book and his second book. Most important book for you to read this year. You can quote me on that. Okay. Secondly, where I see chiropractic going, and unity is important. Here's what I say, and there are going to people that are going to quote me on this and say don't like what I say, but you know what? When you almost die, you care less, right? You care less what people think, and I'm living hugely in that at this moment. I really get disturbed by chiropractors throwing rocks at each other. Okay. And I'm guilty of having done that, being the Sherman straight chiropractic, if you mix, you're the devil, right? If you I've had that upbringing, right? Like if you do ultrasound or something, you're evil. That we have that. And here's the thing. I'd like to see chiropractors love each other more, mentor each other more, help each other more, and judge each other less. Okay. And sometimes we really throw rocks at each other for minuscule things. And the more clear we often are in the philosophy, the more we see the minuscule, and they are important. Just because they're a small difference doesn't mean they're not important, but the minuscule differences, and we have a lot of judgment and anger, or we'll shun people. And it really disturbs me. And I'm guilty of it. I'm as guilty of it as the next person, right? I'm trying to recover from it. But here's what I take away from it that we need to do. And that was a big part of Mile High. I wanted all of the chiropractors that are subluxation conscious. They are subluxation conscious, whether they market one way or another. They're in one technique group, upper cervical, full spine network, TRT, whatever, that they all felt welcome, right? That they're subluxation conscious, that subluxation and adjustment is the centerpiece of our profession. I want all those people to be together, right? They are going to have differences. Maybe the way you market your office, I think, is bad for the profession, and the way you market is this, and you're in that management group and we don't like them. Like that kind of stuff. Those differences, we can't hate on each other for that. We may be attracted to a tribe and things, but when we hate on each other, like, oh, you do CBP and you do TRT, and I do network and you both suck because you don't do network, like that's ridiculous. We can't do that. So what I say is for unity is that we have to look at which direction the person's facing. Like to me, if you're facing like over this way is like I'm facing subluxations, adjustment, that's the focus of my office, then you're on the same path as me. If you're facing this other way as a chiropractor, that subluxations don't exist, adjustments aren't what we do, we're joint, like that, I'm sorry, that we're not going to unify. But all those other people that at least you're facing this way, you may be on a different place along that path. You may have a different set of beliefs. You may not be as far along on that path as me, but at least you're facing that way. I love you, right? And I want you to, we want to love each other and care about each other and be a team together, right? That's just as long we're focused on that. I don't, if you were like in Sean Dill's Black Diamond Club, but you're not in my group, right? I'm not going to hate on you because of that. So, by the way, people should be in my inner circle. I'll say that. And you should be in that instead of the Black Diamond Club. But if you are in the Black Diamond Club, okay, and you should be in Shubal Vision Elite too. And you should be in Cairo Sushi. But the most important one is the inner circle. Be in the Lifetime Wellness inner circle. But like if you're in those other three groups but not in the inner circle, I'm not going to hate on you, right? I'm not going to say, oh, they suck because they're in that group. And we've done that as chiropractors. That's bad. That's not what we want to do. If you're subluxation conscious, whatever group you're in, love you, be at Mile High. We're on this vision together. We're a tribe, right? And you might have your subsets, but we have to work together, right? And love each other rather than throw rocks because you're in this Facebook group and not in this one. It's absurd. And if we can't do that, the where's chiropractic could be in 10 years, it's not going to be anywhere. It's going to be dead if we can't like do that. right? A basic thing, right? So like chiropractic is supposed to be about healing. It's supposed to be about connection. And if we can't heal those rifts, like what are we doing, right? And by the way, don't be in Black Diamond Club. Don't be in sushi. Don't be in Sober Vision. Be in my thing. But okay.
Okay.
but they all know I'm joking. They all know I'm joking.
I know.
But and I love them all. They're my good friends. But you get the idea. And then in terms of regrets, okay, the mandala. I'm the mandala tick. So yes, Liam, that's true. I've been set free. I'm free at last. So. But here's the thing. You asked about regrets. It's realizing this, and actually I learned this from Liam a long time ago. He said this at the first Mile High when he spoke, and I need to take it more to heart, and this has had me take it more to heart, which was he spoke and he said, you don't know which day is going to be your last. You don't know if tomorrow's going to be your last day. Like none of us really know that, right? And we really don't know which moment is going to be it. And there's so many moments where we live angry, or we're holding grudges, we are separating from people, we're not being our best versions of ourselves. Like if you're choosing to live in those moments for the majority, if you're choosing to make your moments like that the majority of your time, that's the biggest thing to regret. You know, you don't know that you're not going to be here mañana. So whatever day you're doing today, you're trading a day of your life that could be your last day for that. I've seen way too many things, and now I've experienced that you can't ever regret. So many chiropractors play small in their offices and how they contribute out of fear, and they're not impacting the world better, or they're not enjoying their life, or they're not getting the abundance that they should have as a chiropractor. Or, they're not living a life worthy of the calling they have as a chiropractor. And that's a shame, right? So we can't regret, that's like the biggest thing that I learned out of this is the value in precious moments. And Paulo Coelho, you mentioned book. If there's a book that I would recommend other than Liam Schubel's, right? If there's a book that I recommend other than his, and by the way, with how big his books are, it's not going to be long, so you can't get him on this interview series. So really, you need to get him on because soon you're not even going to be able to book him, right? Exactly. And he's not going to remember the small people. Like he won't, I may not be able to get him to Mile High. So because the little people, but my favorite author is Paulo Coelho. I don't know if you know Paulo Coelho.
Yes, I do.
Favorite author. And I was reading, The Alchemist, and his other books are much better than The Alchemist.
Yes. Okay.
And one of the themes that he has central is hold your mortality close. Hold your mortality close to you. That theme runs through his book, that you will live life more intensely. Intensely doesn't necessarily mean dangerously, but you will live life more intensely in terms of your work, your outcomes, your romance, your fun, you're taking risks. And I don't mean risk like jumping out of a plane, but maybe that is your thing. It's not really mine. But you're going to live life more intensely if you hold your mortality close to you, okay? That you have close to you that, hey, today could be my last day. What am I going to do with it, right? Am I going to sit here and mourn about, or not mourn, but be sorry for myself because my practice sucks? Or am I going to do something about it, right? Am I going to choose not to have a glass of wine that I want to have, and I'm not trying to, go alcoholism, but I'm just saying, because I have the glass of wine, right, or get the more expensive wine rather than the cheapo glass. Live life more intensely, responsibly, but live life more intensely. Don't get the cheapo Hershey's chocolate. Buy the freaking good chocolate. That's 80 or 90%. Right? Live your life more intensely. Don't not go to Mile High because it's going to cost you freaking money. And you're going to just stay home and try to get the streaming or something like that and then have FOMO over it. Live your life and have connections with people and do that. And with your family. And don't be, that's the area that is the biggest lesson from all of this. And so for people to do that, you have to hold your mortality close. So like if there's a message relative to thinking of New Year, Christmas, New Year, new birth, right? And rebirth, that's what we think of. Like hold your mortality close to you, and then what you're going to make in 2019 may be different.
That is so true. And when you were talking, I love The Alchemist, and I've read a few of his books. They are just so great. And yes, that's why it's called The Present, because it is a gift we've been given, and we get to cherish it every day. And the reason I do this interview is just to keep giving gifts to the world, so we can stay more in the present, so we can learn, so we can unify each other, so we can push forward to live our best life, our passionate life, and bless others. I read something today that we human beings are more into human doings. So we get so busy in the doing, and we forget the being. We forget to really be centered, to even figure out what we want and then move forward and the action steps to do it. And yes, if you want to be an amazing chiropractor, please go to all the seminars that were mentioned here. We need that community. Going to the seminars, listening to each other, feeding from each other, so we can go out in the world without fear and just tumble all the walls that are put in our way, so we can make a bigger impact, not only for the world, our communities, for our families, and for yourself. Because if you do not love this first, you have nothing to give to the rest. This has been a pleasure. I am so grateful I got to interview. Really, thank you so much for accepting. And yes, we're going to put the links to the seminars right below, and the inner circle, why not? And so everybody can like, and we'll tag him, we'll share it. Please share with your friends. This was an amazing naked TikTok with Dr. Knowles, and his story is something to be shared and to be given to others, because we can all learn from it and be blessed by this message. Anything else you want to say before we go?
You know, the only thing I have to say is I've got to make sure I mention the people I'm supposed to mention, right? So I mentioned Shondell, right, and the Black Diamond Club. I mentioned Liam Schubel in his book. I mentioned Tristan and Cairo Sushi Summer Camp. The most important thing is to mention Scott Carber and the Berkshires experience. So I want to make sure all those things are mentioned. But I didn't mention, and I mentioned my wife, right? And so I mentioned how amazing she was and how awesome she was. And I mentioned that people should join the Lifetime Wellness Inner Circle. That's the most important thing, lwpinnercircle.com. But I didn't mention Jack Borla. I forgot to mention him. So that's important, because he's vital to the future and the transformation of the planet. And I didn't mention, who else did I not mention? I mentioned Lacey. Oh, Sean, I got to mention Lacey Book, right? So Sean, I talked to you about you a lot, not as much as Liam. And Lacey Book, you know, Lacey Book is awesome. So I got to mention her. And who else do I have to give my thanks? I have to give thanks to the Academy. Are they going to cut me off here? Right. So I have to, I mentioned Andy Hawkins. Joel Kinch I have to mention because he keeps Mile High going. And I have to mention Dan Limburger and Simon Dove, because those are our MCs. Those are all really important people. Frank Hahn of IFCO TV is super important. And the whole Sherman College board, because Sherman College is the place to be, is today's fountainhead. All the network teaching staff. Can I thank my mom? Do I need to do that? And do I need to thank anybody else? I mean, because it's an honor being on Naked TV. So I have to make sure I celebrate that. So
this was too much, and we're gonna go ahead and thank God for this day.
Oh yes, God, we have to thank God. Thank you.
We forgot God, and thank you for letting us do what we do, and for getting through this medium in social media and getting to your homes and offices and just sharing a bit of our hearts. So thank you to the audience and for watching and putting up. I would also put my free ebook on relationships, so you can keep building on the heart account, which are your relationships to self and the rest of the world. So you can keep living your best life. Thank you again. Thank you, God. Let's have an amazing hump day. Ciao. Oh, yeah, this is going to take a minute.